Good morning, everyone. I'm Meteorologist and Storm Tracker with Dynamic Weather Agency LLC, and today we're going to continue to talk about that next upcoming major winter storm that's going to be moving its way into parts of the upper Midwest before transitioning its way into parts of the Northeast. More about that a little bit later on in today's video. But first, before I get into today's video, I do want to thank everyone who's subscribed to our channel over the last couple of days. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers, so be sure to like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and share this video with your friends and family to help let this channel grow. Also, be sure to check us out on social media where you can send us your weather-related photos and videos that we'd like to share in our next upcoming videos. The links to our social media pages can be found down below in the description. You can also visit us online at dynamicweatheragency.com for more weather-related information. And last but not least, be sure to check out our Patreon page to help support this channel if you'd like to see more weather-related content like this or storm chasing videos like you can see down below, and fund some of our research efforts here at Dynamic Weather Agency LLC. We have many different packages for you guys to choose from, ranging all the way from $1 to $20 with many perks and exclusive content to our Patreon subscribers. Again, the links can be found down below in the description. Now, taking a look at our current national Doppler radar, we can see we have some of that mountain snow conditions still occurring in parts of the Pacific Northwest. We do have some rain conditions occurring in parts of Mississippi, and we do have some rain just off the coast, off the western coast of Florida this morning. So taking a look at our water vapor satellite imagery, this is showing the measured amount of water content within our atmosphere. We can still see that nice atmospheric river that's bringing some of that moisture to the Pacific Northwest and the west coast. We will see this nice upper level ridge develop across the region that's going to be creating this nice blocking pattern that's going to bring a little bit of a sigh of relief to that region for the next couple of days. Now, in our previous video, we were talking about this baroclinic leaf that we're expecting to undergo cyclogenesis, and we now see that low pressure system that has formed that's now over British Columbia, moving its way into Alberta, as you can see right here, with this nice moisture wrapping around with this nice comet head that has developed across the region. Now, as we take a look at our national forecast for the next 72 hours, with that low pressure system over British Columbia moving its way into Alberta, that's going to transition its way across the Canadian prairie. Today, we're expecting to see some of those rain conditions and some of those mountain snow conditions continue within the next 24 to 48 hours across parts of the Pacific Northwest before this low pressure system undergoes, triple point cyclogenesis, where we'll see a low pressure system develop in parts of the upper Midwest, bringing some of that heavy snowfall to parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa as the system begins to develop. And we're expecting to see maybe just a little bit of some warm air advection with some southerly flow just ahead of this wave of this low pressure system that could bring some kind of a heavy rain, snow, slush mix to parts of the region with some light freezing rain accumulation across the area. We're not expecting much as in freezing rain, with freezing rain accumulations just of a few hundredths of an inch across parts of this region. Now, while precipitation rates aren't expected to be high across this region, this low pressure system is going to kind of stall out for 18 to 24 hours. That's going to allow for some of these high snow accumulations. Now, this is because the shortwave trough and the jet max that's supporting this low pressure system is going to outrun it, allowing this low pressure system to kind of be stalled out over the region, and then it's going to start filling over those 18 to 24 hours. And not only do we have to worry about some of that heavy snow with the track of this low pressure system and the consistency of the track of the low pressure system, with some of that northeasterly flow and more northerly flow that we can see across Lake Superior, across the southwest portion of Lake Superior, we could see some lake enhancement snow across that region that's going to increase some of the snowfall totals in parts of Wisconsin and parts of Minnesota, with some of that lake enhancement snow with Lake Superior. And then, as we mentioned, some of those upper level features outrunning this low pressure system over the upper Midwest, we are expecting some of those upper level features to support the development of a new low pressure system further to the east that's going to bring some of those snow conditions as we see impacting parts of the Northeast. And we're expecting to see some major snow accumulations too with this. But as we said, this is a 72-hour forecast of what we're expecting to see happen. So by tomorrow's video, you'll see some of those higher snowfall totals in parts of the Northeast. So as we take a look at our National Weather Service current watches, warnings, and advisories, we do have some freeze warnings in effect across parts of Texas. We do have some winter weather advisories still in effect for parts of Mississippi, some dense fog advisories in parts of, the Piedmont Valley region, parts of South Carolina. We do have some winter weather advisories on Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, and parts of western New York. We have this big swath of high wind watches and high wind warnings in effect today, as we see this increasing pressure gradient, contour gradient aloft, with some of those winds mixing down to the surface, bringing some very strong winds to this region. Some isolated winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in effect still with some of that mountainous snow. We do have those flood watches and flood warnings still in effect for parts of the Pacific Northwest, as some of the rain still occurring today and some of the high soil moisture contents that's bringing some landslides to this region. And we do have some isolated winter storm watches already in effect for parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. Taking a closer look at some of those flood watches and flood warnings across the Pacific Northwest. Again, we've seen some very heavy rainfall across this region over the past 2 weeks. I mean, just taking a look at some of these rain conditions over the last 2 weeks, we're up near the top, where some of these areas have seen greater than 25 inches of rain along this, western coast of the Pacific Northwest. You see some of these higher rainfall totals just further inland. This is again with some of those high snowfall totals that we've been seeing across the region with some of those mountain snow conditions, but just further to the east. Along the Pacific coast, you can see some of those very high rainfall totals that we've seen across this region that's causing some of these, conditions that we're seeing. And again, we have these flood watches in effect, through Wednesday, even possibly into Thursday. And with this, we are seeing some special weather statements across the region. With this heavy rain, we're seeing increased soil moisture contents, and they're raising to very high levels. And basically, with the extra pressure on the soil, this is leading to the threat of landslides across the region, and several landslides have been already reported across this region already. Now, as we take a look at some of the rainfall expected over the next 24 to 48 hours, you can see some of those very high rain totals with some of the higher elevations where we're seeing some of the high snowfall, where we have areas seeing snowfall greater than, a foot of snow in some of these regions, as you see some of half an inch to a inch and a quarter of snowfall of precipitation, liquid precipitation is expected across this region, but we still see another quarter inch to about an inch of precipitation along that Pacific West Coast today. And as we mentioned, not is only snowfall going to be a major factor, with this next upcoming major winter storm. As this low pressure system continues to deepen, we're going to see this, increasing pressure gradient at the surface and this increasing contour gradient aloft. And some of these winds are going to mix down to the surface, creating some, very strong winds across this region. And these high wind watches and high wind warnings are not expected to expire until about 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time today. And with these strong winds, there's going to be some impacts with this. And we can see, some power outages and some down tree limbs and some down power lines with some of these high winds across this region. And this could make travel conditions very difficult for anyone who's driving high profile vehicles. So expect to see some, semis tipped over across the region, with some of these very strong winds. As we take a look at our models, some of these wind gusts could be very strong, anywhere from, about 60 to even 70 miles per hour across the region. As you see, like Great Falls, Lewistown, Billings, seeing some of those higher upper 60 mile an hour winds across the region approaching 70 miles per hour. And taking a look at the National Weather Service's, forecasted wind gusts over the next 24 hours, you could just see some of those very strong wind gusts, coming from this, low pressure system that's going to be moving into the region. Some of those wind gusts, 65, 62, 68 miles per hour, approaching 70 miles per hour across the region. And these wind gusts will die pretty quickly within a couple hours after the passage of the surface cold front. So as we move in through time, we did have that low pressure system over British Columbia moving its way into Alberta. We can see that low pressure system moving its way across the Canadian prairie, where it's going to undergo this triple point cyclogenesis. You see that new low pressure system that's going to develop, that nice closed low over parts of the upper Midwest. That low is going to stall out over this region as the upper level features move out ahead of it. Again, you can see we've got this nice upper level ridge developing. You see this nice low pressure system, and we can see that nice closed low that's developing over parts of the upper Midwest and Great Plains region. But as we take a look, that jet max is way to the south, and that shortwave trough is just ahead of that jet max, so it's losing that upper level support. As we take a look at 500 millibars or vorticity, again, you can see we got this nice sharp amplitude upper level ridge that's going to develop in the Pacific Northwest. It's going to block some systems, bring better conditions to that. We got this nice deep upper level trough that's going to develop, and you can see that low pressure system stalling out over the upper Great Plains region. You can see that stalling out right there. And that vort max and that major shortwave trough is going to move out ahead of that, and that's going to allow that low pressure system to begin to fill and stall out across the region as it loses that upper level support. Now, as we take a look at a snapshot at that gift, you can see that nice sharp amplitude ridge, that Rex blocking pattern, as we have this high over this low pressure system over the upper Midwest. You have this nice deep upper level trough with this cold air advection and neutral vorticity advection moving in behind it, bringing some of these better conditions to parts of the upper Great Plains region. With this Rex blocking pattern that we have in the sharp amplitude ridge in the Pacific Northwest, we're going to see better conditions across the Pacific Northwest with a little bit less moisture and some less systems moving in over the next 24 to 48 hours. It's going to bring a little bit of relief to this area that's been seeing some of those heavy rainfall conditions. Now, as we mentioned, with the shortwave trough moving out ahead of this upper level low that we have across the region, we have this nice area positive vorticity advection out ahead of it with that jet max and this diffluent flow that's going to allow for the development of this next low pressure system that's going to be bringing some of the snowfall to parts of the northeast. We can see that that next low pressure system that's going to develop, that's going to be bringing some of that snow conditions to parts of the northeast. And you can see that that old low that's straggling across parts of the upper Great Plains as it loses that upper level support. Now, taking a look at our day one winter storm severity index, again, we're not expecting to see much impacts today, except for some of those moderate to major impacts and some of those minor impacts in some of those higher elevations, some of those mountain snow conditions further to the west. But as we move into day two, you can see some of those moderate and major impacts beginning to develop, and some of those minor impacts moving into parts of the upper Great Plains and the upper Midwest with this new low pressure system that's moving in, that's going to bring some of that snow conditions to this area and some little bit of freezing rain. As you move into day three, again, seeing some of those minor and moderate impacts and some of that heavy snow conditions moving into the region. Now, taking a look at our Futurecast radar, we have that nice low pressure system over British Columbia and Alberta that's bringing some of those rain and mountain snow conditions to the Pacific Northwest. It's going to transition its way across the Canadian Prairie, where you see that tight pressure gradient across the upper Great Plains. It's bringing some of those high winds across that region. As we move into Thursday, you can see that new low pressure system that's beginning to develop across the upper Great Plains is that low pressure system that was moving across the Canadian Prairie, undergone that triple point cyclogenesis. This low pressure system across the upper Midwest is going to stall out across the region as those upper level features, as we mentioned, move out ahead of it. This system is going to persist across the region Thursday into Friday, even into parts of Saturday. And then we can see, as we move into Saturday, we can see that new low pressure system beginning to develop across the eastern coast. That's going to be bringing some of that snow conditions to parts of the northeast. Now, as we take a look at our weather models for how much snowfall we're expecting to see with this, taking a look at our European model is actually underdoing a lot of the snowfall totals across this region. It's actually doing a lot less than the GFS, the UK Met, the NAM, and even the National Weather Service's forecast. The European model is actually under forecasting this, and I don't know why it's under forecasting it. It could be maybe just because the lack of moisture the European model is expecting to see as this system moves across the the northern Rockies and the Cascade Mountains and stuff like that, moving across the Canadian Prairie. But typically, we do see lighter snowfall totals with these Alberta Clipper systems as the system moves out of the Canadian Prairie. But we're going to see that triple point cyclogenesis and some of that more southerly flow that's going to bring a little bit more moisture to the area. That's going to increase some of these snowfall totals, besides the lake effect enhancements that we're going to see. But the European model is showing some of these lake effect enhancements along Lake Superior, expecting some less snowfall totals amounts with areas only seeing 4 to 5 inches of snow, 3 to 5 inches of snow across this upper Midwest region. But as we move into the GFS is forecasting some higher snowfall totals, not seeing as much as the lake effect enhancements. As we move into the UK Met, this is what we're more thinking. UK Met's more on track with the NAM too. You can see some of these higher snowfall totals expecting across parts of Minnesota right here, and even the parts of Wisconsin. You see a little bit lake enhancement on Lake Superior. As we move into the NAM model, NAM is showing more of that lake enhancement on Lake Superior. Still seeing some of those high snowfall totals expected in parts of Minnesota and parts of northern Iowa, western Wisconsin. So take a look at the National Weather Service's blend of models. It's moving this just a little bit further to the east with some more of that heavier snowfall occurring in parts of Wisconsin, but we still see some of that lake enhancement with Lake Superior. As we take a look at the National Weather Service, you see some of that lake enhancement. We do see those higher snowfall totals expected by the National Weather Service. You see some of those 5 to 8 inches of snow that's forecasted across the region, as you'll see on our snowfall forecast map. As we take a look at our in-house weather model for this, you can see that nice big swath of 5 to 8 inches we're expecting. Parts of Minnesota and parts of northern Iowa and parts of Wisconsin. We have 2 isolated areas of 8 to 12, one with that lake enhancement on Lake Superior, and one where we're expecting to see that low pressure system stall out. Again, taking a closer look at this, again, you can see places like Rochester, we're expecting you to see anywhere from that, that 8 to 12 inches of snow. Mason City, St. James, Minneapolis, Altoona, Duluth, you're in that, 5 to 8 inch snow range. And places like Grand Forks, Fargo, Sioux Falls, Sioux City, Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Rockford, Green Bay, you're all within that 3 to 5 inch swath of snow. Peoria, Chicago, Milwaukee, Grand Rapids, Traverse City, you're in that 1 to 3 inches of snow with this upcoming major winter storm. Again, we're expecting to see some snowfall in the Pacific Northwest. You can see some of those high snowfall totals in the mountain regions. Now, again, like we mentioned, this is our hand-drawn snowfall map. It closely resembles our in-house model. You can see we have those two areas of 8 to 12 inches of snow, one with Lake Superior with the lake enhancements, and one within Minnesota and northern Iowa where we can see that low pressure system stall out. Again, the legend for this snowfall map is up here in the top right. If you want to pause the video and take a look at some of these snowfall totals, this is what we're expecting for you guys over the next 72 hours. And taking a look at our severe weather outlook, we're not expecting much as in severe weather over the next 5 days. Again, I would like to thank you guys for checking out today's video. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends and family. If you haven't already, be sure to check us out on social media and our website. Again, those links are going to be found down below in our description. I'm Meteorologist James Longwith signing off, and you guys have a great day.